Hey, what's up, everyone? Om Lokaha Samastaha Sukhi No Bhavantu. May all beings be happy and peaceful. So I'm going to be listening to the FOMC. I'm going to listen to Mr. Powell for a little bit here and get a feel for what's going to happen next. And I'm going to be doing my best to juggle this live stream. I might be focused more on trading this morning, depending on what comes up. And so you might get a live trading session in here. I'm going to share this YouTube link with you all. Well, it's already shared. It's in the live chat. So if you want to watch it with me, you can. Hey, Peter. What's up, Salamander and 𝐬𝐨𝐦𝐬𝐭𝐲? Here comes the old fogey. Yeah, thanks, bud. Yeah, okay, so he's hawkish already. Let's see what this is doing to Bitcoin. Nothing yet, really. There hasn't been a whole lot of movement yet. Okay, so he's building up to giving justification for being more hawkish here. $25 basis points was expected today. Ongoing increases. Okay, so that's going to probably, that's a negative. Okay, so I do have a short on Litecoin right now. Yep, significantly reducing the size of our balance sheet. Okay, so I'm going to be taking some trades in equities right now. I may be silent for some periods. Boy, look at all these nerds. It's kind of funny how something like this can sway the market so much and there's only 47,000 people watching it. Of course, that's just the YouTube version, but I would say maybe 100,000 at most. Yep, okay. See, nothing really unknown here. Nothing really out of the ordinary. So it turns out that Litecoin short was a smart idea. Solana, I want to short the shit out of this one right here. But it's too early. Let's see what happens here. So basically, it's looking to me like everything's going to head pretty far south, but I don't want to jump into trades just yet. Maybe I am going to be shorting some stocks here. I already have a position in this one here. Okay, so we didn't really get a massive pump leading into this, which it could be a unidirectional move here. It's also not, it's not as reactive. It seems like people aren't quite certain just yet. Not grounds for complacency. Yep, it's too high. Okay, people are going to react to this negatively. Obviously, I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer. Now, let's see what the Dixie's doing here, if it's going to come back. Because it was pretty oversold this morning. Yep, Dixie's starting to rage back. So, as I mentioned, this is a key level to watch here, this 102.50. Let's see what the VIX is coming back up. So notice the VIX was down about as low as it was a year ago, which was actually the beginning, really the official beginning of the bear market last January. Not quite as low, but the lowest since then. So that means most likely going to rip back up again, which is going to lead to sell-off in the stock market and crypto as well. Okay, so now we're headed down. I don't want to short Bitcoin here. Litecoin's all over the place. Altcoins don't really know what to do. So you have to forgive me if I'm not really paying much attention to the live stream right now, as I'm just trying to focus on what he's saying. And so yeah, this is nothing new. The market's been calling his bluff, and he's not bluffing on it. It's just staying the course here, restoring price stability. So translation, we're gonna make you all as broke as possible. Yeah, we'll stay the course till the job is done. Okay. And yet Bitcoin is still holding at 23K. This is kind of interesting to see the market's reaction to this. Look at this 15-minute candle. Now it's ripping the other way. Okay, well, so my Litecoin short was well, this is interesting to watch this, because he basically didn't say anything. Okay, well, we'll see what happens here. Yeah, it's going to be a little whipsaw here, running the stops in both directions. I'll be patient here. Yeah, a lot of people are about to get liquidated. This is where mostly you stay out of the trading. At least a smart trader will. It almost seems like the market's in complete denial, even despite, I mean, he's pretty blunt about what he's saying. Okay, interesting. Euro just tipped above. Huh. Wow, that's interesting. Let's see what happens here. Maybe we get a deviation. I'm not trading Forex right now, but I'm looking at the euro in relation to the dollar. Gets back inside here, probably be a good opportunity to short this. What is the now the Dixie's going down? This doesn't make any sense. He said that he used the word progress. Uh-oh. What is that going to mean here? We've seen progress. Great. Okay. So now it just comes down to what the market's reaction to this is going to be. I mean, there's no real way to know for sure. I mean, any logical person would say that yeah, the market has defied logic for the last month. So we'll see what happens here. I'm going to keep watching this. Bitcoin's now moving the other direction. We're just at the weekly open here at around 23, just below 23,200. Litecoin's moving against me now. Well, I didn't take a huge position on this. We'll see what happens. I might have to cut it. Yeah, it's not a big position. Sometimes you front run and you trade aggressively. It can work for or against you, as I'm sure you've probably experienced yourself. That's the only trade I have. I do have some stocks that I've shorted. I've been really eyeing this mRNA. Okay, I'm going to stick with crypto today, though. I might be a little bit longer on this stream just because I'm waiting to see if there's any major trading opportunities that open up. It may take a day or two to digest, but maybe it happens really quickly. I was hoping for more of like a swing fail type move. Doesn't look like that's wanting to happen. So I do believe that this 23,300 is a critical level for Bitcoin. If it can push back up above it, and it starts to consolidate and hold above, then that's a sign that this rally is not finished yet. Ethereum's pushing back to that 1600 key level. Just be careful here because it's 40 minutes. These hour candles, it can whipsaw both directions. We may end up back where we started. I guess that would be probably ideal for bulls because it is a bullish market structure. So that's something to be paying attention to. Oh, okay. I guess Powell is irrelevant now. It doesn't really seem to matter. Let's see what. Oh, that's not what I'm wanting. Okay, so now Ethereum's breaking out and Bitcoin. I'm reluctant to long this here. Like I said, longing into resistance, I think it's a bad idea. Of course, we had this level here, 24. This was our January high, 24K. So if you get above that, well, that's great, all well and good. But then what do we have looking to the left? What do we have coming up? Well, this whole area in here between 25,165 and 24,328, I would expect some major resistance here, unlike what we've seen so far in this entire move. Okay, so what's the risk reward here? Is it really worth longing this at this point? For me, it's not. I would rather wait to see what happens once it gets to the extreme. If it gets to the extreme and holds above, then that's wonderful. And that would be an opportunity to long. And I would say, okay, bear market is no longer intact here because you've literally broken through this entire now very brief accumulation zone here. I don't think that's as likely. But we're also looking to see, one thing that I was watching the other day was, if you notice the 200 moving average on the daily, we are actually, is that the 200 or the 300? I think that's the 300. If we look at the 200, we are above it. Okay. So, I mean, for the bulls, that's an argument in favor of the bulls. But if we look at the Bollinger Bands on the weekly, it's kind of curious as well, because what we've seen is that there's been a push from the bottom of the bands all the way to the top of the bands. And usually when that happens and it moves from one side all the way to the other extreme, what happens is usually a reversion to the mean, right? And we've seen that on multiple occasions here. We saw it here. It went all the way top to bottom, back to the mean, okay? Back to the bottom, and then back to the mean, back to the bottom, back through all the way to the top. So back to the mean here would be 18,880 for Bitcoin. So, I mean, it wouldn't really, it's especially if you take a look here, and how many times have you seen Bitcoin outside on the weekly Bollinger Bands? It could remain outside for as long as it wants to, as it did here. Okay. But even here, there was a pause and a pullback during this strong bull run in 2021. And so the Bollinger Bands kind of give you an idea, like this is where the momentum has gone. We're outside these standard deviations. So it makes sense that the higher probability is a pullback, even if it does push up slightly higher. Another thing to keep in mind is that if we look at the 200 moving average on the weekly chart, where would that potentially pose a resistance level? Like I said, this was the first time that we've seen the Bitcoin drop below the 200 simple moving average on the weekly and actually came above, retested, failed, broke down. But now we're coming back up and potentially could retest that again. And guess what? Where does that happen to be? That's 24,800. That's right in the middle of the range, right smack in the middle of that range that I was sharing with you just a moment ago. So if we take a look at that again, this is just giving some confluence. Now, I'm not saying that it can't blast through this once and for all, but the likelihood, now it's crossing 23,320. Okay. The likelihood that Bitcoin is going to just blast through this on the first attempt, it's not very high. So I think at minimum, it's most likely going to pull back, and a 10% correction in a run like this is not unheard of. So if it comes back down to the mean, or even above the mean, if it doesn't even make it to the mean, we're looking at somewhere around 20K, maybe 18 to 20K for an average, a decent correction for Bitcoin, which seems to be in the cards if you consider that we've seen all these about a month straight of green here. And we're seeing here seemingly a doji indecision candle that wants to maybe form. We'll see what happens. So this could play out over the next couple of days where it really pushes up. I'm going to check on this Litecoin now because I might need to cut this trade. Yeah, it's breaking out too. Damn it. I don't know. Let's see. Maybe it rejects here. I'm still not convinced that we're going to push. I mean, like I said, we could push high. I think we're going to push higher. I said 24, 25K, but it's hard to know when there's going to be that pullback. It doesn't look like it wants to happen today. It looks like it wants to keep going north. S&P's up now. Stocks are pushing up again. Meta's pushing up. Google's up. So the markets are responding favorably to what Jerome Powell said, at least initially. We'll see what happens in the next hour or two. It doesn't. Yeah, it's kind of surprising. Markets are kind of calling the bluff on that. And I guess it was the progress part that people wanted. That people hear what they want to hear. So we'll see how long this can continue for. This is not a trade that I want to take here. I don't want to take this trade, especially right now, where this sits right now. It'd be one thing if it was somewhere down here, right? If it was at 22.4 or something, and it was showing this sort of momentum, and this wick was down below here, then I would say, okay, yeah, there's a long, And then you've got your targets clearly defined. But you could long this here, and then you've got targets, initial target right here, obviously 23,900 or so, and then looking at 24,300, and then somewhere maybe in the middle, 24,750 or something like that. And like I said, that's right smack, that's right where the 200 weekly moving average lies. And so I would expect, at least initially, a strong reaction at that level. So far it's holding up. So far Bitcoin's holding up. Wants to really push up here, but this could be an the ultimate fake out. Well, glad I didn't short Solana. Solana's coming back up too. And this is a chop zone. I don't want to be in I don't want to get involved in chop zones. Like here I had a clearly defined level that it was initially rejected off of. I'm not even interested in this anymore. It's not worth it unless it strongly rejects from here. Now, Atom, I don't know why Atom is breaking out. Maybe because they partnered with Cardano. Yeah, that's interesting. I don't know, where's it going to hit resistance here? I mean, it's kind of, it's been really strong. I'm definitely not going to fade this anymore, but I'm not going to long this either. I don't like to get involved in these types of moves here. So, can you all still hear me? It's so weird doing live streams. It's like it's like I'm not even sure if you're in the room or not. And it was sort of an experiment today to see, because I've never really done it during the FOMC. I was prepared to take some trades, but now I'm just going to hold. I'm going to hold off here and see. It may be in the next hour or two that I'll have more clarity on this, but it's just not worth it to me to trade this right now. It's strange to watch the dollar. Wow, dollar's coming down now, breaking below. Okay, so this rally wants to continue. I don't want to get too ahead of myself because it could flip the other way in like 8 minutes or so. But Tesla's pushing back at 180 again at this weekly level. And I look at the tech stocks because they are, if they're moving up, then crypto's likely going to move up higher and stronger. The mining stocks are pushing up again. Shouldn't have shorted this one. Of course, I didn't put too much into that, but we'll see. Always a good idea to sit and wait out big events like this, or close out positions ahead of time. Okay. So let's see what else is going on. Optimism. This is why I say, don't trade these when like Optimism's up 14% probably in like an hour or something. Yep. In an hour. What's done it in the last, in an hour. I mean, what the hell is that about? Who knows why? It looked like a distribution. Maybe it gets above here. Maybe a lot of these do this. Who knows? Maybe it gets above and then deviates back inside. Short trigger all the way back down to here. Minimum target. Could short to the mid. I mean, that's AVAX just did the same thing. Just wanted to break down, then decided to go the other way. And they're all just going to respond to whatever Bitcoin, Ethereum are doing. Apto's still holding on. Apto's still. I mean, if we look on The daily, that still looks bullish. It's like a bull flag. It's not ready to be faded yet. I mean, I think the total market cap, total 3 was down like almost 2% earlier. Now it's up 0.5%. Yeah, Bitcoin's breaking out. So alts are going to follow. That's my Litecoin doing right now. I think I might need to cut this. You never risk what you're not willing to lose. I did like a quarter of the normal size for this trade. Litecoin just looked really super toppy to me, and it was trying to push back up. It was struggling, but I was too early on that trade. So this could be tricky. So what we're looking for right now in favor of the bulls would be we want the candles to be obviously unidirectional, not a big wick on any of these hourly candles. You don't want to see something like this. Okay, you don't want to see that. If you see that, that means it's likely headed back into the range. So even if it comes all the way up here, wicks up to here, and then, you know, we see the candle is like that, right? You don't want to see that, because then it's likely coming back down, deviation. Okay, and then that might lead to the correction. But as long as stocks remain strong, it's not really giving Bitcoin any reason to pull back. So we'll see what happens. Let's take a look at ES and see where that's at. Okay, ES is breaking out too. And I mentioned that I would be surprised if it broke above this level, 41.73. I think 41.73 to 42 is going to be pretty strong resistance for ES. Now, a lot of people are calling on the fact, they're saying that, well, if you take a look at this trend line, this major trend line has broken. That's true. It has broken, and it did technically come back and retest. So that's a sign. I'm not going to, you know, I don't give all the weight to diagonals, because I'm treating this more like a range. But that is a bullish sign in the stock market for the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ. So that's going to obviously have a spillover into crypto. So now we're seeing an initial sort of rejection here. And this candle, even though, yeah, I'm surprised that the Dixie has moved down so strong in the last hour. Like I mentioned, this is sort of a key range here, but I wouldn't be surprised if it did come all the way down. It could come down between 101 and maybe, I would say 99, 100. It could do that before rocketing back up again. I think at some point it's destined that the Dixie's going to come back really strong. But from what we've seen so far, this is bullish for stocks and cryptocurrency. Yeah, now it keeps pushing here. Sitting, waiting, watching. And yeah, let's see what the alts do. See, because if Litecoin, you know, if Litecoin rejects here and gets back inside here, gets back into this range here, then what's that? That's an obvious short trigger, especially at this level. Could be a great trading opportunity, but it doesn't look like it really. We'll see what happens in the next 30 seconds, but it doesn't really look like it wants to reject. At least not right now. Litecoin is one that I always follow, because Litecoin, a lot of the times, it front runs or it sets the tone for the rest of the alts. Not always, but a lot of the times. And if Litecoin's breaking out, that means alts are going to have more room to go higher. So Atom is now starting to, they're starting to settle down a little bit, but let's see what else is happening. Phantom, they all look like they want to, they're kind of on the brink. Kind of on the brink of breaking out or getting, or at least getting back inside the chop zone of their upper ranges. I'm looking to see if there's any outliers here that are really pumping right now. Let's see how Lido is doing. Wow, look at that. These like perfectly formed waves here. And now it's pushing back up. So potentially Lido gets back above this 240 and shows some momentum on that push back through. That could be a long trigger. So gets back up here, pushes above, take profit. I don't know if it's really worth it. Maybe up here, and then we're in price discovery. That could be first take profit there and then see what happens after that. But this is a bullish structure. I mean, it looked like initially a potential distribution. It's one to keep an eye on. That's Lido. Yeah, okay. Shit. Okay, I'm gonna cut this trade. I cut my Litecoin trade. I'll take the loss on that and just sit it out. Again, not a big trade there, so I'm not really too concerned about it. But I don't know if, you know, it's tricky when to flip your bias. My bias has obviously been to the downside after FOMC, and that's not what it wants to do. So, but it could just be another day or two, honestly, of a real strong push up. I think when the reaction does come, when the correction does come, it will be strong and it will be fast. So my style as a trader is to play the extremes and to find where after a big strong move, and then I'll go not all in, but I'll size up. So a few of my trades might be the same amount of risk as somebody would take in a couple of weeks, just doing a lot of scalps or, you know, brief swing trades. But then those trades I have really high conviction because they've given me very specific signals. And I was hoping to get some of that today. It might still happen, but I'm waiting for the shorts. I'm not looking to necessarily long here unless I see something that, and I'm not seeing anything that I really feel comfortable longing. Because if you look at Litecoin, and again, always go to the left, and what do you see? This is pretty obvious resistance for Litecoin here. And you see that? It's pretty obvious resistance for Litecoin. And if we were going to go back even on the daily and take a look and see where's that at, okay. You see that right there? That's not, I wouldn't expect after a big strong move for it to just immediately break through and just continue to soar upwards. So that's where I hesitate with longs. I like to take longs when it's broken out somewhere after consolidating for a while here. And it's not a bull market, at least not yet. So we can't use any of the trending strategies. But on the 4H, let's take a look and see how it's done with the EMAs. It's definitely, for the most part, held above these EMAs. And pullbacks would have been good entries for Litecoin. Solana is similar. I mean, well, Solana, yeah, Solana, you would expect there to be some pretty massive resistance here from this. All of this, 1, 2, 3, 4, many days it touched down here, found support, and then flipped into resistance. So now it's bumping its head against there. So it's going to take some real strength for it to really break through. Not saying that it can't, not saying that it won't do that, but it seems like a limited reward for me at least. Well, the bulls are probably celebrating on Twitter. I'm fine if it breaks above and comes above, it breaks above and we start holding above this 25,200, then I would say, okay, we're looking at 2830K. No problem. I'll still trade it. I don't have a problem with it. It's not an issue for me. And as a matter of fact, it's actually better for my channel. It's better for the courses that I sell. It's better for business in general. And it's also easier to take other traders' money because there's more people involved and they're not as smart. But I don't think I'm playing the probabilities, and I don't feel like at this point, I do believe it's going to push somewhere between 24, 25K. I did say that, but I felt like it should have probably made sense that there would be a stronger pullback today, but it's just not happening yet. So maybe it happens tomorrow. Maybe it happens next week. We'll see. It's strong as ever right now. So the ability to flip your bias when it's necessary is really important to all traders, and try to remain as neutral as possible in it. The Dixie's down 1% now. It's fading fast. It's fading fast. That is wild. And the euro, I mean, I know a lot of traders that were preparing for some massive downside. Still are, but I guess FOMC didn't really have the impact that we thought it would. So okay, so where would we be looking to potentially long Ethereum? If Ethereum gets above, this is still the chop zone for Ethereum, right? I mean, it did just break above 1600. So that could have been a potential long trigger there, because it did do that in that 15-minute candle there. But then there's not a lot of room to 1677, right? So if it gets above here, this is the quarterly level here, it gets above and then starts to show some strength, then we're targeting up much higher. And if we take a look and we see where would be the targets for Ethereum, I would be targeting in the middle of this range between 1785 and 1677. And this long I actually took previously when it was breaking out on the weekend, but got out of the trade early. So this is where, and if you look at this 0.5 level, I might go a little bit lower than that, just because we see, I might front run this just because of this here. 1712 would probably be the first take profit level that I'd be looking at for Ethereum. Just to have a more conservative target. I mean, let's say 1713.43, and then I'd probably go with 1780.72. But that's if it breaks above 1676 and holds. And then I definitely wouldn't be longing after that. I'd definitely just be sitting on my hands waiting, because this is going to be massive resistance for Ethereum. But it needs to break above this level here before we can even entertain that. So it's better to just wait it out here and see, maybe set an alert for this level up here. And I'll do just that right now so you can see it. I like to set the alerts just below the level, so that because it tends to move, it can move quickly into it. And so I want to try and catch it before, and hopefully I'm nearby. But it doesn't necessarily mean that I'm just going to instantly take a trade either. I might just, it's just that, okay, noted, now I can pay closer attention to the charts. You could save yourself a lot of time and energy if you know the levels where you are willing to do business, and then you set your alerts, and then you only pay really close attention when it starts to hover around that level. And sometimes it will just break through and it won't give you any opportunity to actually get into the trade, and that's fine. But more often than not, it will either consolidate or retest that level. So let me just refresh this chat and see. Okay. Well, that was rather uneventful. It's giving, it's giving some confirmation for the bulls here. The bulls are strong. Bulls are strong. They're tired of it. They're tired of this bear market. They want to break free of it. I don't blame you. I'm with you 100%. But you gotta be rational. Gotta be rational, because this could reject. It could flip the other way at any time. So let's see what happens here. Yeah, the VIX now just went down 6.5%. So everything is still bullish. Everything still is bullish as of right now, an hour after FOMC. And Facebook's up. They're ahead of their earnings. I think that's tomorrow for Facebook. What was some of the other earnings that we were looking at? Fed meetings. I don't know where that chart went. I had an earnings sheet that I was looking at to see when that would happen for a lot of the big tech. I think Apple is today, so that will be interesting, because that's going to also play a factor here. Damn, now Litecoin's coming back down again. Don't you hate it when that happens? I exited the trade like up here, and then it went. Now watch it come back to break even. Good morning. I don't know why I'm still wearing these. It's kind of interesting. It's kind of soothing to wear headphones like this, because it like tunes out the rest of the world, and it actually helps you to focus, what I found. But then I notice that I'm wearing them sometimes, and I'm like, well, I'm not actually listening to anything. I'm just listening to kind of like the muffled sound of my own voice, which is also, I guess, kind of soothing. It actually does. When you take them off, it feels a little bit like more harsh. Just that reminder that you're in this 3D world, this crazy earth plane. So let's see. What is Optimism doing? 14, almost 15%. I'm going to go ahead and shut my window because there's somebody outside on the roof next door. My neighbor's been having like work done like continuously for the last, like, I don't know, it's been like at least a month, and it's kind of driving me insane at this point. But that's the way it goes. I love my neighbors. They're wonderful people. Like, would you long this? Would you long this after this type of a move here? This could just be one big deviation. So it's best to just wait and see. If it breaks out, fine, let it go. If it breaks out, that's great. Maybe it comes back down and retests at some point, and we get some more stability, right? Always looking for stability. Then you long it. But if you don't get that, and it just wants to do that, fine. It can go as long as it wants. I don't care. I will wait for a pattern to develop that I can actually interpret. 16%. If we get a strong, if you get a strong wick here, then what happens? It gets back inside. Well, then you've got a short trigger, right? Down to the mid and down to here. Given that the rest of the market is also headed south, they don't always move together. Now Ethereum is starting to pull back a little bit, at least initially, and so is Bitcoin. See, so I mean, it could get back inside this range here. I wouldn't necessarily short Bitcoin if it got back inside here. If it gets back below, wow, that's weird. There's a delay on my live. I don't know why my live is so delayed. I'm watching my stream and it's way slower than it should be. Interesting. Hi, Peter from Denmark. It says I have an excellent connection, but I'm literally watching my stream and it's showing, Can you all comment what chart you're seeing right now? What chart do I have pulled up right now? Someone comment for me. Is there some sort of a lag in this stream? It seems like a pretty heavy lag. Yeah, is this what chart though? What chart do you see here? Okay. That's weird. It's like it's replaying. It's a glitch in the matrix, basically. It's like I'm watching myself in reverse multiple times on the lives on the YouTube page. Bizarre. Okay, so yeah, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens over the next couple of hours. See what Optimism wants to do here. I mean, if this candle closes anywhere around 245, I'd be looking for shorts on Optimism. Could be that we just end up, wouldn't that be ironic? It just ends up back where we started and just kind of continues to consolidate, driving us all crazy. It's like, you can push in either direction, just give us something to work with here. There's nothing really tradable right now. Nothing that I would want to trade. I was hoping to be able to take some live trades with you all and you could see, but usually they happen when you're not expecting it. Adam, I don't know what's going on with Adam. I don't know why. Oh, now they're calling Adam, they're calling Cosmos the ETH killer. I don't know I guess that headline just never gets old. Remember when Solana was the ETH killer? Avalanche is pushing back up into this range here. Okay, so possible. Tried to reject and failed. So potential long. This would be an aggressive long here for Avalanche. But if you take a look, we do have a pretty. This is one of the stronger of the alts right now because of the Amazon announcements. And actually, if you zoom out here, it's holding above. It corrected down just precisely to the mid of this range here, and then it's held above. So Avalanche might have another push in it here. It might be pushing back up to the top here at minimum. It might have another. It might put in another top, and that it seems like it wants to right now after a failed sell-off here. But it needs to break back into this, above this $20 level. And it could happen fast. But sometimes you could consider this the deviation out of this range. And so we want to see some strength here. And then that would be the long trigger. It's best to wait for things to settle down. And they will settle down probably in an hour or two. And maybe they will just sit there and do nothing. But chances are if it holds here, then there's going to be more upside for a lot of the ES is pushing up. I should have waited for some of my stocks, for some of the shorts I took on the stocks. I still think they're probably going to go down, but could have gotten much better entries. Dixie. Well, initially breaking down beneath this range. I was expecting it to go the other way. Here we are. So let's see what happens. If this proves to be a deviation, though, and it gets back inside, then we could see that correction. But if it continues to break down, then definitely that 24,700 level for Bitcoin, the 200 weekly SMA, that would be in the cards. So I think the dollar would definitely need to come down further in order for that to happen. But if not, then this correction is going to come about faster once we get that deviation. So watching that closely and looking to see if this, I mean, this is bullish. This is a bullish structure, right? There's nothing, there's no doubt about it. There's no denying it here. It makes sense. It makes sense that this would continue until it doesn't. We've seen, you see sharp moves here like this. This could be a repeat of that, where you get a sharp move up and then it crushes back down. Run these stops here and crushes back down. I mean, how much higher do you think it can go before we see a pullback, a stronger pullback? Markets can remain irrational for longer than you can stay solvent, that's for sure. So it's best to stay rational and stay in cash when the markets are irrational. And once they start to come to their senses, I mean, realistically, this could run, and people ask me why I use this chart instead of the S&P. It's because it's a cleaner chart to look at. If I look at the S&P 500, I mean, it's similar, right? But I don't like dealing with the gaps because I'm used to looking at crypto charts, and ES is more continuous. So, but this level here, this 4,300, I mean, it could go all the way up to 4,300, and that would be the very top of this range. beyond that, I would say, I mean, I have my doubts that it comes up much higher than 42. That it comes, I mean, it could go all the way to 42 and then deviate back inside and then back below again. And then we might chop around in here, which would still be bullish for crypto. I mean, midterm, right? But there definitely would mark the correction. But if it could come all the way up. I'm not going to rule out that possibility to 4,300. I don't think there's a very high probability of it. I think it's a higher likelihood that we get somewhere between 41 and 42 before a strong push down. And we'll see how the earnings reports influence that, because they most definitely will. We've got Apple, Google, and Meta coming up, and we'll see if the advertising revenue has helped or hurt them pretty soon here. So yeah, but still strong, still not really wanting to reject. So bulls are in control. Bulls are definitely in control here. MicroStrategy's up 5.83% today. And HUT mining stock is up about 10% today. Coinbase is up almost 9%. Coinbase has been really strong, back above this weekly level here. You just never know how far they're going to rip when they decide to come back again. Coinbase has been really strong. I mean, of course, it was like this for a year. So it's zoom out, right? Always zoom out. This was back November. Since November, how did Coinbase do? We're looking at it dropped down 91.5%. So people are looking at it. They're looking at this micro picture here. And okay, so from this low, we're up 101%. But if you zoom out, that's not really a lot when you consider how far down it's come. So we'll see if it can push back up to this level here, 76.38 for Coinbase. But all of these are contingent on what Bitcoin and Ethereum do. So stocks are still strong. Dixie's still showing weakness. Bitcoin's got the green light to run up to 24 to 25K. And I said after that point, then most likely correcting back down to 18. I don't know if I said 18 to 20K, maybe 16, 18K, maybe 16 to somewhere between 16 to 20K. And that just seems like because otherwise then we've just broken completely out of this range, which is now pretty obvious that it is an accumulation range at this stage in the game. I would say that we are in accumulation at this point and have been, but what is the likelihood that it instantly breaks out? As I said, this is not a very long, this would be the shortest of all the bear markets if it broke out. So if it broke out here, I would say, okay, bear market's over. If it broke out with strength above 25K, I'd say, okay, well, that's the end of the bear market. But it's very blurry. The lines have been blurred. And I think that, as I mentioned, I think there's going to be a lot of volatility in 2023. I think there's going to be huge moves to the upside. And I think there's also going to be huge moves to the downside. And it's going to be, for a lot of retailers, very, very frustrating. So maybe it does break above and just defies the laws of Wyckoff. Maybe I'm not going to rule it out. I'm going to continue to entertain all possibilities, keep an open mind on it. But this would be the shortest bear market that we've had. And I can go back. I'll show you again, just to show those of you that maybe haven't seen this before. if at the earliest, if we were going off of the last bear market, then we'd be looking at April 7th. That would be April 7th would be the break in accumulation according to the last bear market, the length of the last bear market when it broke out. October 10th would be if we were to go, that's 2023, if we were to go off of the 2015 bear market. Okay, July 9th would be right smack in the middle of that. And so far we are, if we measure this, we are 450 days into the bear market. So this was 514 days. So that would be about 65 days shy of the 2018 bear market. If we break out, if this was, and actually, as a matter of fact, if this was, as some are indicating, if this was the breakout of accumulation here, because anybody can draw a trend line. You can draw a trend line that goes like this, say, okay, well, that was the break right there. Well, let's just say that it was. In that case, and the bear market was even shorter, right? In that case, then, because I was measuring the break in accumulation, the formal break in accumulation, which in hindsight is usually much easier to see, but that would have only been 430 days. So that would have been about 75 days shy of the length of the 2018 bear market. And so, the fourth halving is coming up. That's in June. I believe that's somewhere. Yeah, it should be around June, if I remember correctly. I mean, I did mark it out here, so. Yeah, so it'd be early. It would be very early, but nothing is outside the realm of possibility in this type of a market. Now Bitcoin's breaking out. It's moving up higher here. What's happening to my charts? Okay, I'm gonna bring my levels back and take a look at this. It didn't really whipsaw. I mean, it's been pretty consistent. This is the first time in several FOMC meetings that I've seen this where it, wasn't really dramatic in both directions. It's been actually pretty unidirectional. Yeah, I don't know. Avalanche just seems to look the most appealing to me from a long perspective here. Let's see what happens. See what happens in the next 30 minutes or so. This could just continue north. There's just no way to know. There's no way to know for sure. I definitely get more skittish when there's FOMC. There's more funny business. But yeah, the VIX is now down 7.5%. So we're dropping now once again. Maybe we do drop all the way down to the January. Maybe we do drop all the way back down into this range here. And then it sort of consolidates. But every single time you've seen this, where it's made a big move down back inside here, made this move down here. Well, it was a consolidation for a while here, but usually there's a strong reaction back to the upside. The volatility increases, which means that S&P's likely headed much further south when that happens. So we'll wait and see how low this can go, but I'd be looking at, if it gets to 16, even just the middle of this range here, and if the Dixie comes down to 100, 100, and even 99, 100 comes down here. And what am I looking at here? Just zooming out, like on the weekly, what am I looking at? I'm looking at this level here. This was the initial high, okay? And these were deviations, right? And this goes back all the way to 2015. So this level here, I mean, it could be that it's possible that this is just one giant deviation, and then it gets back inside here, and it just continues. But I don't think that's a very strong probability. I think it's at least at some point, it's going to have to bounce. And then that bounce will be when the top of that bounce would be, in my humble opinion, the perfect time to enter into pretty much everything. And then it will come back down and maybe go down lower back inside this range again. But it just seems unlikely that it's going to just do a complete V move here like that. Of course, this chart is a little bit different than other charts that we're used to looking at, but it seems like there should be a bounce from a technical perspective. It would make sense that it finds support here. So, and this market is definitely we're almost in euphoria. I think that the fear and greed index, let's look at that. Where is that at today? I think it's back to greed, which it doesn't really make any sense, but we're in greed. We're suddenly in greed. It was neutral. Last month was fear. So we're oscillating, right? That's the only, I don't use this as like a buy or sell signal. I'm just like, okay, well, when markets are greedy, you're fearful, right? When markets are fearful, you're greedy. Well, this is a sign to me that people are a little bit too overeager to get out of this bear market, and the reality check is coming. And that's all. I can still profit if Bitcoin goes up. I could still take a long here, but I just don't want to. I could still profit if Ethereum breaks back above here, breaks above this quarterly level as we showed, 1677. I can still take a long. It's just not as juicy to me as a short that is most likely going to drop a lot further when it finally does. So I can profit in both directions. I'm not really concerned. I'm not really concerned about whether I've accumulated my stash, because I can always accumulate. You know, if Bitcoin comes back above and it's at 25K, and then all of a sudden, you know, there's a lot of people that are like, I wish I was accumulating down at 16 or 15, which I was. I sold most of that off, which I'm fine with. But like if it comes back above 25K and then it just holds there, and you want to accumulate, then that's fine. There's no loss in that. I mean, it's still a great entry for those of you that think that it's just going to rocket back to 60 or 70K. But what I'm saying is that I'm not really in a rush to accumulate for this entire year, because I think that there's going to be a lot of volatility in both directions. And those that are going to be the most profitable are those that are able to pivot and to not hold on to positions for very long. So I'm waiting to see what AVAX is going to do. I don't want to take this here. 1600 might have been the time to do it, but it was just too early after FOMC. Solana's now back inside. You've got to think about what's been the strongest. It's definitely Atom has, but like I said, I don't like to trade. I don't like to get something that's already get on board when it's already so overextended. I want to see it pull back at least slightly, or maybe it comes all the way back down to here to 14 and then retests and then shows some stability here, and then there'd be a long trigger for Atom. But if you look, just looking at the EMAs, you can see it's way above here. So maybe a pullback to the EMAs, and then you could consider a long. But then always just looking at where is this at? Where is this at if I look at the rest of the chart here? Well, there's a pretty gnarly peak here. Doesn't mean it won't push above it. It's just that it's there. It's just that it's a big peak that we're looking at. So Optimism, just same, just waiting for a pullback to see what happens. If it doesn't pull back, I'm fine with not doing anything there. I like Avalanche only because it's not, it's down lower and it's just recapturing this range here. So I think that I actually would want to long this. It's a pretty strong move in the last couple of hours, though. Let's see what this, it's over 8, almost 8.5%. And what's that in 2 hours? 3 out in 2.5 hours, it's gone up 8.5%. Which, I mean, it's happened before here, but maybe let it settle and see. I'm not eager to make money. I know that when I do make money, that it will happen all at once, and it will be a lot of money because I will know exactly what I'm working with. I don't have that clarity here yet. Let's look at ETH BTC because this is going to give us an indication of relative strength, Ethereum versus Bitcoin. It's still below that mid level. If we look, it's still below it. So it's still weaker than Bitcoin. It's consolidating below it, however. So it did that here and then it blasted back up again. It's done that a couple of times actually. So, I mean, it could hold as support again, or it could flip into resistance. I'd be watching this and I'd want to see if it does actually break back below here with some strength, then I would definitely, when it comes to taking longs, I'd be looking to long Bitcoin over Ethereum. But if Ethereum can recapture, break out above here, if this ETH BTC gets back above here, then I'd be maybe looking to long Ethereum. So it depends on the direction that this starts to go when it comes to deciding which one to long. If I had to choose just one and really focus my energy there, focus my money there. So yeah, bulls are still in control. I'm not going to fade this. I'm not going to fade this. I already lost a little bit of money today fading this. S&P's up 1.7% now. Yes, just pushing up. Just pushing up. Google now is above. Oh, okay. I'm going to check on that one. I'm going to check on that trade. Damn. Okay. Well, I'm going to have to hold on to these and see what happens. Let's see. Let's wait and see. Okay, so yeah, Avalanche is the only one that I'm really concerned with here. I don't like sand. I was looking more on the short side. I don't like this setup here for sand. It could have already seen the bulk of its rally. I definitely don't like Aptos. I definitely don't want to I mean, I guess if it did come back in here at this 1748, 1749, 50, whatever, and then showed some strength, then I'd be targeting back up here, maybe a little higher, just under 19, and then I would just let it run and see what happens, as it could continue to the upside for Aptos. Just look at the daily. Yeah, I mean, this is a bullish market structure. There's nothing really like indicating that it wants to pull back, especially when you see these wicks like this. A wick like that, a pin bar candle after with a bull flag there, probably wants to run, especially if Bitcoin goes to 24, 25K, then Aptos it's probably going to put in new highs. So I'm going to mark this level here and see if it reclaims here. So we've got Avalanche and Aptos that we're gonna that I'm on watch. And again, if you haven't joined C3 and you want to, you can. I'll post those trades if I take them. You just have to DM me or email through the contact form. If you just buy anything from my website or sign up from XC, one or the other, and you're committed to trading and you show me that, then I will add you to the group. Like, I can't just have it open to anyone. So that will be where you'll see, I don't share all of my trades, but I share most of them. I share most of my trades there. And sometimes I go through phases where I don't want to share because I get a little suspicious when it's a personal thing. It's just something I'm working through, I guess. I never really was public about sharing on YouTube or sharing trades or any of that. And sometimes I feel like when I focus too much on sharing that it takes away from my trading, but it doesn't really. It's just a mental thing. So I don't know if that makes sense. So yeah, those are the levels. So we know, so Ethereum might be looking to potentially take a long, but not until it gets above 1675 and holds above. So we've got Ethereum, Avalanche, and Aptos. Optimism, Optimism, I want to see if it comes back down to 245. And hopefully, ideally, it doesn't do that like in this candle, right? Because if that happened, then I would say most likely not going back up again. In that case, either way, I'm interested at this level, because if it rejects here, great, then I'll short it down. If it holds here and then kind of gradually makes its way down, and then we see a rejection pin bar here, then I'd say, okay, it's headed much higher. We don't really know. That's the cool thing about these, is you don't know how far they could go. They're in price discovery. Optimism is one of my small cap superstars. So yeah, had it in the report, and that was in December before this run. So a few of you bought it. Maybe, hopefully some of you bought Optimism after reading it. But either way, I mean, I'm not even in it right now because I didn't expect this to happen so suddenly. I think it's probably going to come back down inside. If you look at Optimism and you just look at what we have to work with so far, just from a weekly perspective, what do we see? We see a range that, I mean, which wick do you want to use? We can just say, even if we just use this wick here, right? And then you say that this is like the lower boundary of the range. Well, what happens if it does correct strong here and gets back inside this, beneath this 220 level? Then we're looking at, this would be one giant deviation in the weekly, and it's probably headed back down at least to the mid. So this could be an excellent shorting opportunity when the time comes. And you'll know when the time comes. Again, I'm giving all of the indicators, all of the charts that I'm looking at, and exactly what signs I'm looking for. I'm giving you as much as I possibly can right now, because again, my whole aim is to help you to profit, is to help those of you, especially that are struggling, to get in your own rhythm so that you can be independent traders and not need to rely so much on people like me. And you'll learn after a while. You learn, those of you that have been watching me have probably seen, you're starting to learn my style. I've learned the styles of other traders. Some of it I take, some of it I leave. And it's just, some things don't work for me. Some things work really, really well. And it's just constantly evolving. So at this stage in the game where I'm at right now is just waiting to see when the price reaches the extremes of the levels that I have identified. And I'm constantly updating that. So when it comes to Bitcoin, if we just take a look on the monthly and we see the levels that we have right now, I don't want to ignore these previous, this is a weekly level, but I don't want to ignore these previous levels here. But I also, you want to keep in mind that we do have another range to work with here starting on January 1st. This was the top of the range, which was at about 24K. And this was the bottom of the range, which was at about 16,500. And so if we get back in, if we go above this range, back into 24, back into this zone, which I think we will, and then it gets back inside, well, then again, just like I was showing you with Optimism, chances are it's headed back at least to the mid, which just so happens to be, that's around 20K probably. So let's actually measure that and see. Let's measure the mid and see where that is on this January candle here. It's just below it. So it's just around 2,200. A retest of 2,200 would not be all that unusual, especially when we consider that this was a level of support for so long. I mean, of course, there were these wicks down below it, but this was basically the main level of support for 5 months. It was either opened and closed above. Well, here, I mean, I guess this was kind of an exception here. Let's just say 19,500. Okay, so that's kind of close to the mid of this candle here. So I would not be surprised to see it correct. And then it would still be bullish. It wouldn't necessarily be a bearish thing if it did come back down to 20K and then started to gradually push up again. That would just be a healthy correction. And there's, as you've seen, those of you that were around for the last bull market, you probably recognize that, well, it's not out of the ordinary for there to be a 20 or 30% correction in a bull market. 10 to 30%, right? Well, how is this any different? So far, what's the biggest correction that we've seen? If this is a bull market, if we're already in a bull market, which I think we should start getting away from these terms because it's very confusing, but 5.6% from here to here, 5.7% here. And then if you count, let's see what this was here, 5.9%. I mean, that's not a norm. These aren't healthy corrections. It's a brief pause before another run up. So it's like a child that's like just running full speed ahead without any sense of where it's at. And if we go back again, we just go back to the bull market here. I mean, this could go on for weeks. It did go on for weeks, but then it pulled back at times. This is not the same sort of conditions as we saw here. But when it did pull back, what did it do? Probably would have been better. Let me try the 3-day so I can see this more clearly. And yeah, actually you have to switch views too. It's good to switch to the log view when you're trying to view a bigger picture. But so here, it doesn't look like it's much of anything if we just look at it from this perspective, but actually this was a 30% correction, 31%, okay? Of course, that was after 3, 6, 9, 10 weeks of green, but it was a bull market, okay? And then we had another 3, 6, 9, 10 weeks of green, and then there was a 26% about correction, okay? And then it was a couple weeks of green and then a 19% correction. This wasn't a bull market. So if that's the case there, then even if you are a bull right now, then you have to admit that at some point, I mean, we've seen 3 weeks, 4, 5 weeks. I mean, it hasn't been a consistent green, but it's been these red weeks have not been significant. So so even if we were to measure from here, what would be a 10% correction? That's around 21K. And then if it comes down lower, that 2200, that mid range for the January candle would be about a 14% correction. And is that really all that out of the question? No, I don't think it's a matter of if, I think it's a matter of when. And so I'm hopeful actually that it does push up to 24,800, because this is where I'd really be looking to size up and short it down, because I think there's a very high probability that from this point it's going to come at minimum to 22, at minimum to 22, and most likely somewhere down around 20K. And that would be it's only a what, a 20%, 18% correction there, back down to this January mid. That's only an 18% correction. So again, zoom out. It's got to be, there's a perspective on this that you've got to be paying attention to. Some people, my strategy is I'm more of a swing trader. I'd rather catch a big move and ride it down when I can. Some people are just more on the scalping side, and that's why I'm sharing trades in the short term as well. Now, I won't be taking huge positions on the trades that I shared with you today, but I will, just sometimes it's good to just have a little bit of skin in the game and to get some experience as a trader. If for those of you that are just starting out, it's really good to just have like $100 account, put $10 into the trade, put $10 at risk. $10 at risk. You could even just, lever up so that your stop is your liquidation. Use $10, do a 10x, 10%, 9-something% stop, and then you lose that, fine, no big deal. But that's how you learn. The more you trade, the better you get. And this is a good time to practice with that. But for those of you that are more serious, like myself, when it is your bread and butter, it's your livelihood, then you wait and you see if it can actually push all the way back up to this extreme here. None of this is financial advice. These are all my own personal views. This is what I am doing myself when I trade. So comments got a little quiet. I'm wondering if you guys are still here, or if I can, let me see. You're still watching. So I'm just trying to add as much value as I can and give some perspective on this. I know that initially in this live stream, I was a little bit scattered because I was trying to listen to 𝐬𝐴 while looking at a number of different charts. But it seems clear at this point that this run isn't over yet. That seems to be what is wanting to happen here. It wants to continue. We could be all over the place for the next week or so before it finally does actually correct. Yeah, no matter what, I do think we need to get away from the bull and bear. I need to find new ways of expressing that, because I think you could throw that out the window for the next several years. I don't think it's going to be, I would love nothing more. Believe me, just like you all, I would love nothing more for us to be able to say, we're in a bull market, we're in a bear market. Right now, it's still following that, but there's no way to say, it could do something like this where we break out and then everyone's saying, okay, bear market's over. And I'd be like, okay, but I'd be skeptical, because I think that maybe it comes all the way back up to 30K, right? Massive resistance there. I mean, much bigger than up here, but maybe it comes all the way up there, and then maybe it just comes all the way back down again. It comes all the way down to 18K. And then it does it again, and it tries to push up, and it pushes all the way up here, and then it comes all the way back down. Maybe it even goes even lower, Okay, this would be a nightmare for a lot of people because they'd be like, well, what kind of a market is this? That's what I'm saying is most likely going to happen in the next year. And that's what you need to be prepared for. And that at this point, we're saying, are we bull? Are we bear? It's no man's land is what it is. It's chop, but it's on a higher time frame. And if you remember correctly, 2018, not 2018, 2019, we did just that. This was our range. Of course, I am including COVID, but I mean, would it really be all that unusual for us, even considering that FTX and all of the craziness that we saw with Celsius and 3AC and all of them, even though crypto has held up well, it's true. Even with all of that, it's held up well. But we don't know what's on the horizon. We don't know if there's going to be another COVID-like event. And it might not be a pandemic. It might be rolling blackouts. It might be World War III. It could be so many things that could just instantly crash the entire market. Okay? That you need to be always prepared for that. And so even for those that are accumulating, well, when this price starts moving up, maybe there's a trailing stop on those spot positions. Because this was a range. This was a range even after the breakout. Now, given those that accumulated at this down here and at this breakout here, they were in a much better situation than pretty much everybody else. But it's not a guarantee that that the trajectory will even be up and to the right here. Okay, it's always to the right, but up. It's not a guarantee. There's a lot of chop in here, and these folks here, of course, they ended up profiting eventually. They were patient enough, but the traders, actually, this was a trader's game here. Good traders could have made more money here than people that were holding all through here. They still could have gotten in here and done really well in the bull market. So that's kind of my approach here, is thinking you just never know what's going to happen. Even though we want it to be more like this, like what we saw in 2015. Okay, this would be nice, right? That would be perfect. I don't think this is going to happen because the amount of instability that we have in the economic and in the socio-political, like in all of the different spheres of our lives, that's going to be reflected in the charts. And that's my intuition coming through. I can't say for certain whether that's going to be the case. I mean, it could just be a nice gradual stair-stepping movements back up again. It could happen. I'm not going to rule it out, but I'm saying the higher probability based on what we've seen and based on the way, the world governments have been acting and the Fed and so on, most likely it's going to be more erratic, like what we saw back in 2019 and in 2020. Okay. So no matter what, no, you don't want to live in fear, but you want to be realistic and think, okay, like this could happen again at any time. This could happen again at any time. There's no, Biden just sent tanks to Ukraine. He said he wouldn't do that. That'd be World War III. He just sent tanks to Ukraine. So what happens if there is World War III? Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared? No, don't live in fear, but be able to, a warrior is able to respond, not react. Respond, because anybody that bought, some people bought down here and they thought, they were smart, they held on, okay, but some people bought down here and then saw what was coming, myself included, and they sold up here, and then they bought again, okay, when they saw this play out here. So those that are paying the closest attention and can see the trends as they're unfolding, if we go back and we look at this on the 4H, let's just see if we can go back to COVID. Nobody wants to go back to it, but right? I mean, what happened, like technically speaking, there was a time when you could have gotten out of this. If you were paying attention to what was going on in the news, there was a time that you could have gotten out of this. I mean, it broke down from this range here. came back and retested this range, and then there was the massive breakdown. So this was the retest that never really broke back inside here. And you see the downward overall momentum. There's your exit trigger right there if you were long. And it would have saved you all of this. And then you see the bottom, and you see this massive hammer candle, and then you see this bottom play out over the next week or so, and then you get back in again. And so this trader, this hypothetical trader, could have done a lot better, having been prepared for every possible outcome. That's a warrior is prepared for every possible outcome. And that's why I'm sharing all this information with you, because we could see another COVID. And I'm not saying it's going to be COVID. It could be something completely different. But we could very well see that again. And if what we've seen so far from our governments, from the powers that be, whatever you want to call them, is any indication, then would it really surprise you? Would it really surprise you to have another black swan in all the markets? So do you want to get super bullish here? I mean, you can go ahead and buy. For everybody that makes money, there's got to be people that lose money in these markets, and that's a reality. I try to be optimistic about the future. I want to be optimistic. I would love nothing more than for Bitcoin to really just continue to range here and then eventually really break out. This is what you want to see in a healthy market. You want to see something like this, and then this, and then this, like what we saw in 2015. That's what we want to see. Everybody wants that. But that's not being reflected right now. This is actually a cause for concern that it's been so incredibly strong. It's a cause for concern here, not a cause for celebration. It would be different. This one single candle wiped out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 candles, about 6 candles. So that's a bullish engulfing candle if I've ever seen one on the monthly. But it's out of context is the thing. So that's what I don't like. If this had played out for another 3, 4, 5, 6 months, and then we saw this candle, I would be in a much different position today as far as what I'm sharing. So that's all I've got for you guys today. Again, still looks bullish short term. I'm looking for some setups for Avalanche, Aptos, maybe some brief longs there with Ethereum. I hope that you guys got some value out of this stream. I need to open the window and get some air in here. Thank you all. Have a beautiful day. And yeah, definitely, if you watch this far into the video, it helps me if you like the video. Share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. And again, you can find all the information, all my courses on my website. Yeah, that's all I've got. See you later.